You've been lied to your whole life, and it's been costing you everything since the moment you learned to walk. They told you discipline was just about willpower. Just push a little harder when you're lazy. Just get up early. Just make lists. As if tidying the surface would somehow cleanse the rot buried deep within. But let's stop pretending. The truth is, brutal discipline is not about trying harder on good days. It's not about getting lucky with motivation. Discipline is war. An internal, relentless war. And in that war, you're either the general, commanding your own mind, or a prisoner to your own impulses. Most people, they're like crumbling cities, overrun by chaos, breached from within. They fall to temptation without a fight. They think they're free, but they're enslaved by distractions, by procrastination, by the smallest excuse. Without structure, without self-control, there is no freedom, no clarity, no real power. Those who do not rule over themselves are constantly ruled by everything else. Niccolò Machiavelli, one of the most misread and feared thinkers in history, understood this better than anyone. While the world kept preaching about positivity and hope, Machiavelli looked humanity straight in the eye with surgical coldness. He saw what few dared to admit. The world does not reward good intentions. It rewards discipline. It rewards those who can stay focused while surrounded by chaos. Those who do not fold when comfort calls. For Machiavelli, discipline wasn't a virtue. It wasn't a noble dream. It was survival. Without it, kings fell just like peasants. The battlefield of life doesn't care who you, or it only asks, are you ready? Here's the harshest truth of all. The moment you stop governing yourself, you surrender the keys to your destiny. You hand them to the loudest distraction, the strongest craving, the first thing that demands your attention. Life is like a throne. If you don't sit on it with authority, someone or something else will dot. So, if you think discipline is waking up early only when you feel inspired, forget it. If you think wanting something badly enough means you'll stay consistent, think again. This video is not for the weak. It's not for those searching for hacks or comfort. It's for those ready to take the chisel and hammer to their own souls. Like a blacksmith shapes steel, you will learn to shape yourself. True discipline is not glamorous. It's not easy. It requires constant vigilance, ruthless honesty, strategic preparation. You must build an inner fortress where chaos has no entrance and fortune holds no power. You must become unshakable, not because the world is safe, but because you are solid. Today, we dive into why Machiavelli saw discipline not as optional, but as a state-secret pillar of control and strength. If you have the courage to absorb what you're about to hear, and more importantly, the discipline to apply it, your life will never look the same again. Machiavelli didn't write for dreamers. He wrote for warriors of the mind, for those who refuse to live on their knees. When we examine discipline through the cold, sharp lens of Machiavellian philosophy, all childish ideas about motivation must be discarded. For him, discipline is not a feeling. It is structure, strategy, power, survival. And if you neglect it, even your brightest potential means nothing, because it will be devoured by the forces you failed to master. So now, the question is no longer, if you need discipline, the question is, how far are you willing to go to build it? Let's explore that, starting with the most overlooked principle Machiavelli ever revealed. If you cannot govern yourself, you cannot govern anything. That was the core of Machiavelli's philosophy, and in his eyes, the fate of a kingdom was always rooted in the discipline of its ruler and its people. He made it unmistakably clear, The foundation of good order in a city, in an army, or even in one's personal life, begins with discipline. It is not a luxury for peaceful times or a side tool used when convenient. Discipline is the very thing that allows a state or a human being to withstand adversity and chaos. Without it, everything built on the surface eventually collapses. For Machiavelli, external stability, what we see as political power, social order, or personal success is only the mirror of internal strength. A government cannot last if its leaders are ruled by emotion. An army cannot win if its soldiers are ruled by fear, and an individual cannot grow if they are ruled by impulse. This is why he warned us. The most dangerous enemy is not the invader. At the gate, it's the undisciplined mind within. The prince who cannot control his rage, his pride, or his vanity will fall not because of his enemies, but because of the cracks in his own foundation. Decisions made out of ego or fear are more fatal than any external threat. Acting without reflection, reacting without thinking, moving without strategy, these are not mistakes. They are paths to self-destruction. So for Machiavelli, discipline must be cultivated the way a fortress wall is maintained, with daily vigilance, constant repair, and a deep understanding that the real threat often rises from within. He viewed human beings as inherently susceptible to corruption. Desire, pride, and fear will always try to erode our reason. That's why only those who make discipline a way of life, not just a reaction to crisis, can resist this slow decay. And this didn't apply just to rulers or kings. Every single person who wants to take control of their destiny must follow the same law. Because if you don't govern your own mind, it will be governed for you by circumstance, by emotion, by manipulation. And to Machiavelli, a person ruled by others, no matter how free they appear, is already politically and spiritually dead. They just haven't fallen yet. He took this even further with one of his most vivid metaphors, the human soul as a battlefield. And on that battlefield, discipline is the only thing standing between victory and complete annihilation. Without it, all the courage in the world is just noise. So picture this: an army marching into war without training, without leadership, without strategy. What would you expect to happen? The answer is obvious: a massacre. No amount of bravery can save soldiers who collapse at the first sign of fear, who crumble from exhaustion, who panic when instinct overrides reason. Discipline isn't about suppressing fear, it's about facing it with structure and preparation. This, according to Machiavelli, is exactly what doomed mercenary armies and weak states. It wasn't their lack of weapons, it was their lack of will. In his discourses on the first decade of Livy, Machiavelli states, "The orders of a wise captain are not obeyed by undisciplined soldiers." And this, as we'll soon see, isn't just about armies. It's a direct warning to you and to anyone who wants to lead, build, or survive. Because in the next part, we'll uncover how internal discipline, the kind forged in silence and tested under pressure, can turn ordinary people into masters of their fate. Are you ready to march forward? Mental discipline, just like military discipline, is the foundation that holds everything together. Without it, even the most brilliant plans fall apart before they begin. Machiavelli understood this truth deeply, not just from a political perspective, but from a psychological one. When your mind operates like an undisciplined army, no matter how loudly you shout commands at yourself, nothing obeys. You might declare your goals, outline your resolutions, or make bold promises to change, but if your thoughts, emotions, and impulses are not trained to follow, They will desert you the moment the battle gets tough, and that's exactly how most people lose. Not because they lack the intelligence or the skills, but because they sabotage themselves from within, their own internal army defects at the first sign of discomfort. Fatigue creeps in. Doubt whispers louder than reason. Fear takes control. And just like that, their plans dissolve. Machiavelli saw military discipline not as brute control, but as the sharp edge of victory, the key that allowed the few to overcome the many. A small but well-trained army could dismantle a massive, disorganized force. The same principle applies to your inner world. A handful of disciplined thoughts, well-drilled and precise, are far more powerful than a storm of chaotic desires. Ask yourself honestly, how many times have you failed? Not because you weren't talented enough, but because you lacked control over yourself. How many goals have you abandoned, not due to a lack of opportunity, but because you let doubt or laziness creep in and take the lead? Just like a foolish general who loses battles before stepping onto the field, we often lose the war of life before the first real test begins. Why? Because we let our untrained minds dictate our actions. We act on fleeting moods instead of fixed principles. We wait to feel like it instead of marching forward regardless of how we feel. Real discipline means showing up with the same resolve every single day. It means obeying the strategy, not the emotion of the moment. It means moving forward even when your body resists and your spirit wavers. Because, ultimately, victory does not belong to the strongest, it belongs to those who refuse to retreat. Machiavelli knew that triumph is rarely the result of raw force. It's built on relentless order, on vigilance that never sleeps, on planning that anticipates setbacks before they arrive. And this is the same mindset we must bring to our inner lives. Yet today's world glamorizes feelings and dismisses discipline. That's why so many people feel lost, helpless, searching for someone or something to blame. But now you know the truth. If you want to win in life, you must become the general of your own inner army. You must train your mind as Machiavelli would. Train his troops without mercy, without excuses, without compromise. Because in the battlefield of existence, lack of discipline is a slow death sentence. It doesn't kill you in one blow, it wears you down, silently, until you become a shell of who you could have been. And if discipline is what builds virtue, that inner strength to carve your own path through adversity, then we must understand what stands against it. Machiavelli set virtue and fortuna in opposition. Skill versus chance, discipline versus chaos. In the next section, we'll explore this clash in depth and uncover how true power lies in conquering luck itself through relentless preparation and the building of unshakable inner strength. Are you ready to understand how to take fate into your own hands? Let's continue. If you don't rule your own mind with strength and foresight, something else will often its chance disguised as fate. For Machiavelli, luck what he called fortuna's no gentle, generous force. She's wild, unpredictable, and cruel too. The unprepared indie prince, he compares fortune to a violent, surging river. When calm, it may seem manageable, but when provoked, it becomes destructive, flooding the land, uprooting trees, sweeping away villages, and leaving behind devastation. In such moments, people run, hide, surrender, powerless to stop its fury. But Machiavelli insists this fury is not beyond human control. Though you can't prevent the storm, you can prepare for it. You can build dikes and barriers during times of calm, anticipating the flood long before the skies darken. This metaphor isn't just poetic, it's a battle cry. Because the world is brutal and indifferent to your dreams. It will not wait for you to be ready. And if you rely on fortune alone, you are doomed to be a victim of its next turn. This is where Machiavelli introduces one of his most powerful and misunderstood concepts. Virtue, don't confuse it with virtue in the modern moral sense. Virtue, in Machiavellian thought, is not about goodness, it's about power. It is inner strength. It is your capacity to act with clarity, to navigate uncertainty with wisdom, to bend the chaos around you into order. It is the sharpened blade of strategy, discipline, and resilience used to carve your path through a world that does not care whether you succeed or fail. To have virtue means you don't sit and hope. You don't whine about circumstances. You move. You adapt. You strike at the right time, and you build your foundation before the test comes. While others make excuses, you make adjustments. While others rely on chance, you train for battle. And when the flood finally arrives, because it always does, you will not be the one swept away. You will be the one still standing. How many times in your life have you told yourself, now is not the right moment? How many times have you hesitated, hoping things would change on their own? Be honest, how many opportunities have you surrendered? To fear, to waiting, to wishful thinking. Machiavelli had no sympathy for those who blamed their failure on bad luck. In his eyes, only those who had failed to build the necessary discipline would ever need to make such excuses. The strong prepare, the weak pray. And this brings us to one of the great illusions of modern life, perhaps. The most dangerous of all, the idea that discipline is easy, convenient, and can be outsourced to gadgets, schedules, or productivity hacks. Because in the next section, we'll expose how society has repackaged discipline into colorful apps, shallow habits, and motivational slogans. But Machiavelli would see through it all. What would he say about today's obsession with morning routines and digital planners? Let's find out. If waiting for the storm is foolish, then building strength in silence is power. Today's culture might mock this idea, but Machiavelli never would. He understood that true discipline has nothing to do with comfort. It's not some trendy app you download or a morning habit you install like software. Discipline isn't cozy, it's confrontation. It's a painful, relentless battle against everything soft, weak, lazy, or fearful inside you. You fail not because you're incapable, but because you've been conditioned to seek shortcuts. You've been taught that the right habit, the right environment, or the right mood will somehow align your life into place. But the truth, real discipline doesn't come from convenience. It doesn't grow in perfect conditions. It is born in discomfort. It begins in the exact moment you want to stop. It means taking action even when your muscles ache and your mind screams for rest. It's moving forward while your thoughts whisper excuses and beg you to quit. Discipline is acting when you least feel like it. That's the crucible where strength is forged. Machiavelli warned that those who wait for the perfect moment have already lost. The disciplined prepare in times of peace. They train on quiet days when no one is watching. They sharpen their minds through repetition, routine, and resolve. Because when the storm hits sand, it always does. It's already too late to start building your fortress. But modern society has flipped this wisdom upside down. Today, failure is treated like a badge of honor, and every small effort gets rewarded. You're told to be kind to yourself, to take breaks, to listen to your feelings. And while there's value in compassion, the truth is that excessive comfort dulls your edge. It sedates your potential. It lets your strength wither quietly. While you're busy celebrating minor victories, this emotional version of discipline is built on sand. It rises and falls with your mood, your surroundings, your level of motivation. But the kind of discipline Machiavelli described is not emotional, it's structural. It is stone. It is strategy. It is designed to function even when everything else fails. If you wait to feel inspired to act, you're already being led, not leading. You're living like cattle, waiting for someone else to make the hard decisions for you. But if you want to build the kind of discipline that forges empires, you must be willing to do what most people avoid: embrace discomfort, welcome challenge, and accept pain as part of the transformation. You must treat your mind as a battlefield, a training ground where no weakness is allowed to remain. You must harden it not to become cruel, but to become free. And if everything we've said so far has resonated with something deep inside you, then you're ready. In the next part, we will go far beyond theory. We'll begin crafting, step by step, a brutal and strategic daily routine inspired by Machiavelli's principles. This isn't about feel-good rituals or motivational hype. It's about constructing an internal system so unshakable that neither laziness, nor fear, nor doubt can survive inside it. Machiavelli taught that the wise ruler prepares his defenses long before the enemy arrives. Now it's your turn to build the fortress of your mind before life puts it to the test. Discipline doesn't start with motivation. It starts the moment you stop waiting for it. If you wake up each morning and let your emotions decide your actions, you've already handed over control. The battle is lost before the day begins. Your victory or defeat isn't decided when things get hard, it's decided in those quiet, early moments, long before anyone sees you. That's when the true war begins. So, what's the method? First, constant vigilance. You must become the commander of your mind. Every single day, without exception, you must inspect your thoughts and behaviors with the precision of a general before battle. Ask yourself honestly, where am I leaving gaps? When do my emotions start to take the lead? If you allow even the smallest lazy habit, a harmless excuse, or a meaningless distraction to slip through, make no mistake, that's the crack where failure enters. Picture your mind as a fortress. Every time you procrastinate, every moment of hesitation, it's as if you're pulling a stone from the wall. Sooner or later, the entire structure collapses. Vigilance means inspecting the foundation daily, even when things feel calm. Especially when they feel calm. You correct flaws immediately. You respond with urgency, not softness, because the cost of delay is far greater than the discomfort of discipline. Second, clear strategy to win this inner war. You must eliminate friction. You must remove as many decisions from your day as possible. Why? Because your brain, when given the option, will always choose comfort. It's not personal, it's just wired that way. Every decision burns energy. Every choice invites hesitation. And Machiavelli was clear: in moments of doubt, those who hesitate perish. That's why discipline begins with rigid routines, not as a cage, but as your true form of freedom. Decide your schedule in advance, then execute it with military precision. Fix your wake-up time. Lock in your training time. Know when you work, eat, study, sleep. Build your routine not as a suggestion, but as an unbreakable law of your life. Think of this: if you wait until the end of a draining day to see if you feel like training, you won't. Your brain will give you 100 excuses. But if training is simply something you do, a non-negotiable part of your identity, then there's no debate. It happens every time. Third, relentless reinforcement. In the real world, failure has consequences. In battle, a single misstep is not a minor detail, it's the difference between survival and death. You must apply this same standard to your own life. If you skip your commitments, there must be a price, one that your mind truly feels. Discipline grows when failure hurts. Set up real-world consequences. Publicly declare your goals. If you break your routine, donate money to a cause you can't stand. Tell your friends you failed. Face the discomfort. Carry the weight. Shame, loss, accountability. These are your training partners. Discipline is not built only through rewards. It is forged in the fire of avoided failure. Think of a soldier in training. Does he get to decide whether he feels like running drills? Does he negotiate with fatigue? Of course not. His duty is clear. His consequences are immediate. That's the kind of clarity you need. Now, you might ask, isn't this harsh? Maybe, but ask yourself this instead. How much has softness cost you? In the next part, we'll go even deeper into the psychology of resistance, self-sabotage, and how to build unshakable inner discipline that endures long after motivation fades. Get ready. The real construction begins now. A soldier doesn't run 5 kilometers in the pouring rain because he feels like it. He runs because he has no choice, because discipline, not emotion, commands his steps. And your mind must learn to function in exactly the same way. You don't wait for the perfect morning. You don't wait to feel inspired. You train your mind to obey not because it's convenient or pleasant, but because it's necessary. Because without this internal structure, life will impose external chains. Without self-command, weakness rules. And weakness always collects a price. Discipline, real discipline, is choosing to place yourself in chains today so that the world never has to shackle you tomorrow. It's building a mental routine as sharp and consistent as a military ritual. It's learning to rise every morning, no matter how you feel, and move toward your goal with the cold, steady resolve of a commander who refuses to lose. Now that you know what discipline truly requires, a deeper question rises from the silence. If so many understand this, why do so few ever follow through? Why do people sabotage their own progress? Why do they run in circles, trapped in cycles of effort and collapse? This is what we'll confront in the next section, the hidden war within, the silent sabotage that stops so many from ever becoming who they could be. Because the greatest threat isn't out there, it's inside. If what you've heard so far resonates, then I invite you to explore further. My ebook, Beyond the Shadow, dives deeply into Carl Jung's most powerful ideas. It provides clear, actionable tools for understanding the darker parts of yourself and turning them into strength. The link is in the pinned comment. But before you go any further, there's something critical you must understand. Knowledge without action is cowardice. Many people will watch this video, feel the truth like a blade cutting through illusion, and still do nothing. They'll nod, they'll agree. Then they'll scroll to the next distraction, the next excuse, the next reason to stay small. They'll return to being ruled by their habits, governed by their impulses, prisoners of their own weakness. And then they'll blame fate for their chains. But if fewer, rare few will choose something different, they will make the decision that separates the ordinary from the exceptional. They will take back the throne of their own mind. They will stop being ruled. They will start ruling. They will build discipline not as a performance for the good days, but as the invisible structure that holds up every part of their existence. In the darkest moments, Machiavelli taught us that a ruler who governs a nation without discipline invites collapse. And now, You know governing your life without discipline leads to exactly the same end. Your mind is your kingdom. Your habits are your soldiers. Your daily decisions are your strategies in battle. You will either be the prince or the prisoner. There is no third option. There never was. Maybe you're thinking, I'll start next week. Maybe you're waiting for things to calm down. But Machiavelli was clear. The prince who waits for the perfect moment will be destroyed by the first gust of misfortune. The time is now, while you still have energy, willpower, and clarity. This is when you must raise the walls of your inner fortress. Discipline yourself not to impress anyone, not for appearances, not even for success. Discipline yourself because your life depends on it, because your freedom depends on it, because your greatness demands it. And now, I want to hear from you. Go to the comments and write this sentence: I choose to be my own prince. Write it not for me, but for yourself. Let that be your first public act of discipline, a declaration that your transformation has begun. Let it mark the moment you stopped being a pawn in your own life and started becoming its architect. But don't stop here, because what comes next is essential. In the next video, we'll continue sharpening your mind so that every choice you make from this day forward is a clear, deliberate step toward complete mastery. Keep going. You've only just begun to forge who you truly are.